Absolutely. So you had a good cruise?
Yeah, man, it was awesome. It was definitely
Yep,
an experience. It was really awesome.
yep. So is the group joining us?
Just me today, just
Oh, okay. I thought it was the group. Okay, it's cool. Sounds
just to catch up. I'll try to do
good.
that in July. I think we'll try to shoot for later in the year.
That's cool. Okay, I'll just do this. All right. You want to? Oh, you got your recorder on, so I'll disappear. Have a cool time, and I'll talk to you later. See you, brother. Bye, bye, bye. Greetings. How are you?
Hey, Tabaash, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. I just have some water. I got a soul around you who just kept in straight away, and his name is Arthur.
Arthur. Oh,
Arthur. So you got this guy around you called Arthur, and so I'm just asking.
what's he got to
Yeah,
say?
I was about to ask him the same thing. You know, what do you got to say for yourself? And he talks about the progression of your own development and the way you evolve to a certain place where you start changing your story. And as you change your story, it's the evolution of everything, of course. But every so often, it's quite important to look at, what is the story of who I am as Homer and my not just my spirituality, but my life, the way I'm choosing to develop. Because if you get locked up into the same story all the time, then it's rather like covering the same energy, the same basis, the same frequencies. And everything you do obviously has an impact on everything you do and think and feel, etc. So you've been on your road for a while, and therefore it's evolved you. As it's evolved you, then you start realizing, well, I've come to the end of that particular story. And you don't just leave it lying down there so you can refer to it. It's very important to take that old story and just put it on the shelf and realize, well, now it becomes a part of all my stories. And so this Arthur energy who's around you is helping you to look at another story that you're wanting to create for yourself. And obviously, it's based on the vibrations of what was, because that's always the foundations for more. And it's your advancement, it's your evolution. How much more do I have to choose to develop? How much more do I wish to put my hand up and say I'm God? How much more do I choose to access the power of life that's available to me? And so, all this self-development stuff that people get involved in, it has to amount to something. And it amounts to more. It amounts to more life. And I was thinking about collectivity and how it works for every soul. So think about the origins of everybody. You're all light beings, and you had this energy that was like a ball of light, but in that ball of light was the connection with everything and all. There were absolutely no degrees of separation. And so, the original vibrations of beings on earth were like that. And so everyone was totally unified in that oneness. But then gradually, as humans went from being light beings into being human beings, then there became this separation. So it's like the ball of light that was a collective suddenly went kaboom out like that. And it created all these other little balls of light. And okay, there was still a connectedness that was there. But the more some of those souls got locked into human experience, then they lost connection with that collective vibration and energy. So obviously,
so where am I on that scale? Am I one of these that got lost in attached
yeah,
to that energy, or is that what
well, no, what I was about to say was that over this period of the last few decades, there's been this magnetic attraction for those souls to come back. And so all the balls of light are once again coming together. So if you look at your own group that you create, that's a form of coming together collectively. If you look at as each individual, you're all pulling in more knowledge, feelings, experiences, attitudes, which change you, awaken you, activate you, align you. And it changes your story, but it also reminds you of, it's not that I'm going back into how things were, but I am aligning to my origins, my original state as a light being, my original state as a collective energy. And in that, then the concept that humans have, there becomes no degree of separation to anything. And as you consolidate once again, then what are you doing? You're automatically accessing more power, more understanding, more compassion, more love, more of service. So you begin to, the way I like to look at it, it's like creating a collective heart energy where everyone is involved. And in doing so, and this is important at this particular point, because it's the way where you heal conflicts. It's a way where you change the old stories that are, still unfolding on this planet. And it just changes the dialogue, metaphorically. And, when human nature often asks of us, what more can we do? What more can we be, etc. Often I'll say, unite. Look at the collective energy. Now, of course, can you imagine the impact that's going to have on you personally? Because as a soul in your man's body, then it means that it brings a whole new meaning to that phrase, human. So I was just going to pull myself together, because you literally are. You're bringing yourself back into your original collective vibration. And because your soul always remembers this, then your soul activates the memory of that, and it starts telling your human nature that as well. So, of course, every cell of your body suddenly gets activated with the same frequency. And therefore, every cell of your body itself starts attracting itself to itself in its light form. And so you begin to bring through you this light being energy through the physiology of you, which activates in you the superhumanness that everyone is capable of being. So you become all knowing and all feeling and all thinking and all of everything. And that puts you into a position of existence. I am just in a state of existence. And that's an interesting perspective for you personally, because I was looking at 2024 as a year of state of being. You are in a state of being. And in a state of being, you get beyond thought, you get beyond action at times. You just are in that state of being. And if you take it from the concept of the God vibration is always in the same place. It doesn't move, but it can alter its state of consciousness. Therefore, it can be wherever it needs to be. And okay, humans often say, where should I go to do this? Or where do I need to position myself or whatever? Whereas often it's just, I'll just stand still. And as I'll stand still, then that's just a focal point where I'm able to just place my attention to wherever I need to be. And when you, of course, are 100% conscious of the state of you everywhere, then it literally is where you can be everywhere at the same time. And so imagine someday, rather than have to do something like this through Zoom, it's that you can just appear as a hologram, or you literally can appear in this room, or I can appear in your room, literally, because it's just the altering of the states of consciousness. So it's that, where do I choose to put my attention? Now, that is an important statement that I made just for you. So when you think about yourself in your spiritual development, where do you choose to position yourself this year? When I mean a position, I don't mean a place, but what states of consciousness would you like to allow yourself to position yourself in?
I'm just trying to merge a little bit more with, my own inner alignment and
Yep.
look at
So,
look at life from that perspective, and blend a little bit more. Taking
so it's like what we said earlier about pulling your energies in more. And as you just blend more in, then you be conscious of your own intentions for what does this feel like for me? How do I choose to do the driving with this? I mean, look, man, you're not in a position where, as a human being, your life is full of problems. So you've got a good order of things. So you've developed enough to be able to see the bigger picture of you, integrate in the way that one chooses to, and then simply do what you can, how you can, in the way that you can. So you've got this power which you're making completely available to yourself. And then you think, right, where do I choose to position this? Where do I choose to place this? So it's never about where am I going with this? It's what am I doing with this? And so as you bring that energy in more, then because of the way you have a good alignment, you're activating more of you to recognize that vibration. And so, as I've said in the past, you just end up wearing yourself in a really productive way. And so if you're wearing yourself consistently as God, then you have no restrictions. And yet you do have to have what I'll just call self-regulation, which is where you regulate what you're permitting, what you're wanting to feel, what you're wanting to think, etc. And anyone who gets involved in self-development is able to do so because you've taken a lot of incarnations to get to a place like you have. And the fact that you've chosen to be alive at a time in human history where all of this rather extraordinary events are happening and unfolding consistently as more awareness is being presented. But then at the same time, all the craziness is being presented too. But that comes with it, when you have massive shifts of consciousness, then the old guard will put up a fight. And it will throw everything at human nature to be in control of it or dumb it down or manipulate it or whatever, because that vibration wants to stay in power. And so, but of course the thing is, for want of a better cliche phrase, the light will always prevail. And as the light prevails, it just shines. And that's where the more you just turn the volume up on that, or the more I like to say, the more you are God, then that's the simplest way of just increasing that vibration and that energy. And so the dark energy, it can't deal with the light. But what's dark? Dark is just a place without light. And so when you put the light into that dark space, then you see something. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. And so darkness is often ignorance or fear or, people's old stories. So when you turn lights on like you have, then you realize, well, I'm just filling up all these spaces with more light all of the time. So with your development, the way you are involved with other people's energies, you're all about just bringing more light into the circumstance and the situation. And when the light is presented to you, then you decide what you see. You decide what to do with that vibration and that energy. And so this Arthur chap, he's still around. He's obviously there to assist. Anything you want to say to Arthur?
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you trying to get? What point are you trying to drive across? Why are you hanging around? What are you here
Yeah,
to
yeah,
assist you with?
yeah. We're just helping you to turn more lights on. And as a soul, as a guide, as a spiritual being, you know, he's intrigued by your journey and wants to help. And this is it. You know, you can attract souls in who just, you know, want to assist and want to serve, because it's what it comes down to. You know, not all guides have to be, you know, deep and meaningful masters and teachers and things of that nature. You know, sometimes you get souls that just, wow, I like what he's doing. I want to be a part of that, because they seek for simpler ways. And not just in spirit form, but you get people, you know, who do the same thing. Oh, Homer, I'm really drawn to your energies. You know, I like what you're doing. I like your belief. I like your perspective. And so you begin to pull in individuals and energies that you keep lifting the energy and lifting that vibration. So 2024 for you is, again, it's a year of doing so. It's like, wow, I'm strong enough to be able to carry this. So now let's lift this. And then so you position yourself metaphorically in a way where I'm holding the light, I'm carrying the light. But then I've got other souls who are doing the same thing, or all the, how you doing over there? You know, and so you're all doing so. And not just in a sense of your own development, but even subconsciously in other aspects of yourself, where you're all linking in more and more. Do you know, in November of last year, there was a big a corner that was turned in the collectivity of human nature, because there's more people now who've turned more lights on. And when they turn the lights on and disclose more of themselves to themselves, that's when big, massive corners are turned, and suddenly there's a shift in the frequencies, in the energies. And okay, yes, there becomes a bit like this balance of power for a while, until at some point, the more souls who present themselves from a position of light, then the easier it becomes to dispense of the need of conflict. And yet at the same time, it shows up where the conflicts are, whether that's individual stuff or world events. It has to be shown up so that collectively people can see what's being done or see what's happening, as opposed to people being kept in the dark. And that's where now humans aren't. And yet they are unsure about, well, what role do I need to play? What do I need to do, etc.? How do I make peace? How do you stop this conflict? As I would say, well, become more light. And then in your own individual way, do what you believe you can, whatever cause you want to follow, or thought you wish to have, or whatever. It does make a difference. And humanity has proved that, because, you know, you look at all the possibilities of, particularly in the last 30 years, where humanity, you know, could have really exterminated itself. But it didn't. And why did it not do that? Because it got to a place where collectively it evolved to a high degree. And therefore, humans chose light rather than extermination. And that's even been written in human spiritual teachings and scriptures, and like the Mayan calendars, and a lot of your indigenous, you know, peoples, even in America, you know, where there's been, you know, teachings and stories, basically, see. So I don't believe for a moment that humanity is walking the tightrope anymore. I think they've jumped off the tightrope. But when you jump off the tightrope, it's like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got to put my feet firmly on the ground now. And I personally see it as a time of establishing a different form of human nature, or say it differently, a different version of human nature. And so, as if you have awareness, it's good to consider, well, what version do I wish to be of myself that feels really normal to me and natural to me? And then you follow through what you feel, you follow through your feelings or your ideas. And you're finding another version of yourself is just a simple natural process of anyone's evolution. One must find that version of oneself. But their old version, the new version, is obviously built on the old version. And if that old version is, productive and positive, etc., then the new version is happy for that old version to walk with it. But then there are definitely times where there's old versions of self that one realizes, well, no, I'm just going to put him over there and just leave him alone. Because whatever he represented to me, he's had his day. And now I look for the new version of myself. I am choosing to be empty of him and totally clear now. And in my clarity, I can look at, well, what is this version of my mind and my body and my spirit, my emotions, etc., that's finding a different formula. And so as you create that formula, and I believe this is happening for everybody at this point, you just see everything in a whole different light. And it's unsettling because it means things go up and down like this. And it's not a time to question, it's a time to observe. And so of your observations of your inner self, what do you see that's powerful?
I see, my own discernment getting more and more firm.
Yes, good. Yeah.
And
And how do you fall?
choices that seem to be easier to make now.
Yeah. Well, integration allows that, doesn't it? Because when you bring that in, what you're doing is that you're bringing in even more aspects of yourself which are functioning, and so you get a greater support of yourself, more alignment, more integration, more knowing. When people go, well, how do I know this? It's because there's more of you, and when there's more of you, then you begin to bring this through more consciously, because you've created relationships with these different aspects of self. I mean, I always think of it, and it's a point of it's just another form of channeling. You're all multidimensional beings. So when you get to a point of a certain belief within yourself and the way that you relate to self, then you start allowing other parts of Homer in. So you start channeling another part of you. And sometimes you're channeling information that's come from other incarnations. It doesn't actually have anything to do with this lifetime at all. And that's often where people would go, oh, where did that come from? Where did that idea come from? Where did that confidence come from? Where did that talent come from? So you begin to dip into the cornucopia of you and your life and its experiences. And of course, what I also note is that you feel more conscious support from non-physical energy, other dimensions, but also you begin to recognize around you in human life the support that you believe is also essential to you. And I just call it the lifelines that you feel that you wish to connect to. And when you bring those lifelines in, now you're the one who's activating it. And, something I've said in the past, which is life's not happening to you, it's happening because of you. So because of the alignment that you have, you just become a greater receiver for what's already there. And that's really awareness. And so I got the awareness, therefore I've activated the energy. It's there, so I'm being more perceptive. Here's an interesting perspective for you. You got to get to a place where you stop working on yourself, and then instead you work with yourself. So when you work with the self, totally different. I'm working with my power, with my alignment, with whatever.
And that's a better description of what my answer should have been. That's what I feel like's happening.
Yeah, good. So when you work with yourself, then your journeying has trained you up to get to a place where now you just change the gear and move into another version of self, another state of consciousness, whatever you wish to call it. And then you have awareness of your aptitudes, powers, and then you just put them together in working with the energy of it. And of course, you find that reflects itself also in the peoples that you make connections with, the things that you feel drawn towards, because you also bring in, modalities that work with that frequency. And then you go wherever you go with that energy and that vibration. And it's interesting. Just a question that I want to put to you, just something came up. How have the changes that you've made in your self-development reflected itself in your family and how they are with you?
I don't have a huge interaction with my family, but I mean, my wife and, uh, with some of the children that I do talk to, it's good. There's no doubt about that. But I
Yep.
but with the others, that I haven't spoken to in a while, that it's similar. It continues to go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
I'm at peace with what is, and if it changes, that I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is just about, well, I'm just now just being myself. Yes, that's my wife and those are the kids and da da da. But really I'm not needing to portray myself to them in any particular way. I'm just being myself. And in being myself, it's like you humans saying, well, I'm just completely disclosing. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is my vibration. And then you find the natural rhythms with each individual. And so for those who you connect with, then you've got this vibrational dialogue going on. But then for those that you don't connect with as much, you still have that vibrational alignment, but it's just different. And that's where when you get to a place like you have, then I don't actually have to put any effort into this. I just need to be myself. I just need to communicate who I am, etc. But then obviously, and I think of that concept again, truth needs no publicity. I just live. And as I get into the living of that, then it makes you even more aligned and attuned to, like with your wife, the natural rhythms, between the vibrations that you are. She's God doing it her way, you're God doing it your way. And so quite subconsciously, people create a rhythm that seems to feel comfortable. And if it's not a comfortable rhythm, well, both parties soon know that. And it doesn't have to come down to what's wrong. But okay, hang on a minute, let's just step back here. And maybe there's some rearranging that needs to be done. So look, this all, working with oneself means that you're also inviting in more of yourselves, because when you get to a place where you can work with yourself, you bring in more and more. You're inviting in all these different relationships with self. And this is all very aligned with your higher nature, because your higher nature really starts recognizing which of yourselves it feels is essential for you to work with. So the higher nature is a bit of a, sifter out. Obviously, you don't need all yourselves in the room all the time. This gets a bit crowded in there. So you create this selective process of selves that are pertaining to the day you live, or the mind, or the body, or the spirit, or the emotions. So it's rather like all these different departmental selves that each represent some aspect of you in some way.
They're there to assist you when you need it, and you just call upon it as you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And no one's on high alert or anything like that, because it's just that ultimate blend of vibration and energy. The impact of higher consciousness on you is, of course, expanding your awareness without you having to think anything, do anything, feel anything. So your vibrations are established enough to be able to work on lots of different levels and reach, just for more energy. But don't forget also, you only need to know what you need to know. Only need to feel what you need to feel. Only need to experience what you need to experience. And of course, human nature is very much into, yes, but I want to be over there, or I want to know more, or whatever. And so it's more, it's nothing to do with patience or tolerance or anything like that. It's more to do with the simplicity of how life's forces work. And in understanding the naturalness of that, then you simply get into the natural rhythm of everything. And as you are aware, your soul already is everything and already knows everything. So everything you're doing or experiencing is activating that. And then, but the soul will only give to you what is needed. And so, but of course, human nature goes, is that all? Is that all you're going to give me? And then it's like, yeah, well, that's enough for the moment. Just work with that. And so humans often get disappointed because they're wanting something big and grand all the time, whereas you yourself have discovered it's actually quite simple.
Yeah, it's usually
And,
what's right. It's usually what's right in front of your face, and then you take the next step, and you see the next
and
adventure.
it's always there, whatever's needed, whatever's necessary. But are you seeing it?
Yeah,
And and that's what humans do when they get into self-development. They start to see. And then they first see through their feelings, and then gradually they begin to literally establish situations. I know what that's all about. So you begin to read the way life is actually talking to you. And of course, in doing so, you it's not that you have to find a more powerful way of interpreting anything, but it's more of, I know where I stand, I know what I'm working with. This is the simplicity of it. This is what makes sense to me. This is just what I need to do for the moment. And it's not, I'll trust the process. It's no, I am the process. And there are definitely times where you have periods of your life where there becomes a ritual of development where your soul is directing your human nature to certain experiences, which it understands is essential for you. And that's where you have a revelatory experience, or a book that comes your way that suddenly speaks to you, or somebody you meet that inspires you. But you don't need all of that all the time, because you have to look at what all of that is activating in you, and then where you choose to take it. And it sounds a funny way of putting this, but the other way I thought about 2024 for you is a nothing year. It's a nothing year. It doesn't have to be about anything. It's just life. I'm God, I'm living, I'm creating, I got a fairly good sense of who I am and how all this works. So let's not make it about anything. Let's just live. And it's rather like having this giant positive blank around you all the time. And every day, in your own way, you decide how to fill in the blanks. Just for that moment, just for that day. And you don't have to fill all the blanks in. It's just, no, just 2 or 3 will do. And then be satisfied with that vibration and that energies. And when I was looking at your order before, I was thinking the importance of finding more of your silences, finding more of those moments where it is to be able to go even deeper and deeper into a sense of your soul, and then see where that takes you. And it's not arranging your life away from anything. It's arranging yourself within yourself, where you embrace those moments which you feel are essential ingredients to you. And have you ever taken yourself off on a spiritual retreat?
That's kind of what I just did.
But without people.
You know, no, that's what I need next.
Yeah, because it's that sort of vibration that's important. I mean, look, you be sensible about it and all that sort of stuff. But I suppose that's why, if you think about master energies, they would often take themselves off and just go on their wanders or be away for a week somewhere or whatever, where they would simply be life without the responsibilities, without the distractions, without the stories going on around them. And when I said that, I was thinking it's rather like finding another level of mastery over you as you keep mastering the way you choose to function. And it's interesting about the concept of mastery, because a lot of people think of it only as gaining more wisdom or finding deeper truths and the mysteries of the universe and that type of thing. But mastery is your mastery of the force of life. And in the mastering of this life, then you realize how everything becomes possible. So all those other things that I spoke of, the wisdoms, all that sort of stuff, the formulas, the magic of life, it just gets activated because it's just there. And I look at how some people try to master something before they've mastered themselves. And of course, it will never work. Or they get too distracted by what's out there as opposed to what's here. So they get involved in overt connections too much with other forces or other dimensions, et cetera, et cetera. But then they forget about the fact that, well, none of that's going to be of any use to me if I actually haven't mastered who I am.
I haven't mastered this body.
Yep. And so, for you, it is very much about that. But again, it's a gentle process. It's not more disciplines. It's not overthinking. It is getting me back to what I was saying earlier about you in a state of being. And as you're in a state of being, then you get into the simplicity of the original creation consciousness, which is in you. And you activate that vibration to direct your human nature from the original vibration, the original energy. So it's like saying, you just go to the party that has no complications, and not covered up by human experiences and all that sort of stuff. And every being has that. There's nothing to be found. It's everything to be remembered. And so when you're involved in life's experiences, which are you mastering your mental state, your physical state, etc., you're teaching yourself to direct the power that is you. And I think of a exercise that Buddhist monks up in the Himalayas are taught, where to understand how to work with their power and energy. So one of their rituals is they have to go in the middle of a cold snow storm and sit naked in the storm, and they have to raise the vibration of themselves so that they can melt the snow around them and generate the heat that is available to them. And it's the mastery over their own vibrations and energies, and to be able to direct. And it works. People can do that. There's a place, a cave in Tibet, where there was this monk who lived there who understood about the reorganizing of vibration and energy. And to make his teaching obvious, he left an imprint of his hand deep into the wall because he lifted the consciousness of himself. So he became the very energy. And so he was able to just do that. And therefore the solidity of the mountain, just would give way to his imprint. It would just because like pushing your hand into water. And so, and again, the world is full of things like that. But really what he wanted to do is to show to people you can organize yourselves to a degree where you become everything. And therefore that's how things like that are able to happen. Now, if you think about self-healing, all that sort of stuff, self-realization, etc., it's no different. What are you doing? I'm just aligned to accept what I am, what not to become, but what I am. I am the vibration of God. I am the vibration of happiness, of joy, of love. I am all these energies. So when I master my story, then all these things that are naturally inherent to all just are lived even greater. And then in your mastery, then you still decide how to direct that energy just in your day-to-day life and everyday way about going things by just being in your state of being. And so, but as you have discovered, sometimes it puts you into I need to withdraw a little bit. And so when you do that withdrawal, it's not because, I can't cope with these denser vibrations. It's more, I'm actually observing life and energy by stepping back. I've got to step back sometimes and not question anything, but more in your observations. What am I able to do with this situation? How can I organize this differently? And so it's about a different way of how can I approach this? Or as you humans say, how can I see this in a different light? Or if I see it in a different light, then what steps can I take? And remember, when you turn a light on, it doesn't mean you have to walk in the room. When you turn a light on within yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do something with that vibration at that point. Sometimes it's just, oh yeah, turn the light on. Yeah, I see. Okay, bye. And it doesn't mean that you haven't taken something on board. Sometimes you get the sense, I gotta walk into the room too. And other times it's like, no, turning the light on was enough. And then you can leave the door open, but then you go into the next place. That led to that. And I think this is where, again, humans think they've always got to do something with everything all the time, but you don't. And I can assure you also that nobody will ever miss out in any way at all. It's impossible. When you know where you're at and when you recognize, hey, I'm created for success, so therefore that's just naturally what happens, whether it's my mind, my body, or my spirit. So I got back to your little individual retreat where you take yourself away for a few days and just listen to your soul and don't go into an organized situation. Take yourself somewhere and don't have to go and sit in a tent in the middle of the forest. You can go and find a nice little Airbnb in Cape Cod or something, and so, but it is literally about, I need to put myself into an environment where I'm really able to feel my soul, listen to my soul, and hear what my soul has to say to me, without the distractions of my responsibilities and the energy that I surround myself with in life. And people have their meditation rooms and places, but they often decorate it with a whole lot of stuff, and that's okay, but it's still an energy. And often what's quite a good thing to do in meditation is just find an empty space, where it's not got any distractions around you, or sit in a room that's dark and allow yourself to just be in that zone, be in that space. And, you know, humans are consistently finding more and more ways of distracting themselves, even spiritually, because they bring thoughts in and questions in and theories in and, you know, methodologies. You see, do you want to ask me any more questions? Anyway, I gotta go. I love you. Blessings to you. Pleasure. And I'll be around bugging you. And so I'll bring your brother back and you can say goodbye to him. Okay. Bye for now.